most people shouldn't be their own boss.
I don't want to work for a boss either, because it just entails that this person tells you what to do all the time. There's no teamwork. There's no collective thought.
What's going down? It is it's the podcast. Name change, possibly coming soon. We're teasing that out. But it's still us. It's still DJ Payne 1, Dame Ritter, and Aaron Knight. And you can find us all on Twitter. And damn it, do not call any of us co-hosts or guests. This is a trio. It always has been. So when you leave those comments, don't get ignored because you tried to play us with those labels. Damn it. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. It's been a good week. I was over at 24/7 Artists, was having a camp here in LA that Two Law sponsored. So I was over there yesterday. Then we shot an episode of the Blackbusters podcast. This week's been really productive, I think. That's why I'm a little tired right now, but all is well. Can't complain. What's up with you, Aaron?
I'm great. I'm in Austin. Had another edition of the Dinner Party series that I throw between here and Nashville. And last night's was sponsored by the city of Austin, which is super sick to be getting, the city involved and excited about what we're doing to bring Black folks back into the city and to have real equity in what's going on as the city is building and evolving. So that was super tight. And then this week is DreamCon. For those listening, it'll be last weekend. And so we're doing a ton of programming with DreamCon, which is the largest Black anime festival conference in the U.S. So 20,000 Black nerds are converging on Austin starting yesterday all through this weekend. So we have a lot of events this weekend, including their first official block party that we're throwing with DreamCon and the city of Austin. So it's an exciting time in my career. If it doesn't rain, Saturday may be the largest event single day event that I've ever thrown. And then last night was the smallest event, highest margin that I've ever thrown. Last night was only 21 people, including our photographer, which was really, really, really cool. Very intimate, very intentional. So I feel blessed, very encouraged. All of my technology is glitching out today, including my phone. But that seems to be the name of the game with the world right now. Stuff is glitching. But aside from that, I'm great. I'm grateful, too.
Yeah, apparently that everyone's saying that's going, everything's down, I don't want to get into that, but I haven't been experiencing any more technological difficulties than normal. So either I'm privileged or I'm just normally in technological hell.
I normally suffer technologically, but last night I got stuck in a Tesla, which was crazy. It was only for like 20 seconds, but still, that's actually my fear. And then my internet at my house in Nashville has not been working. And the internet service provider can't tell us why, but multiple Zooms that I've been on with people in Nashville haven't connected, and we've had to FaceTime or call each other because Zoom isn't working. So I don't know. And then my phone stopped working maybe 5 minutes after I texted y'all. And yeah, I don't know. It's been a weird day already.
I was supposed to fly out for NerdCon because Two Loss was sponsoring NerdCon on this past weekend, and my flight never got off the ground. So my flight got canceled on Friday. I know pretty much everybody's flights got canceled.
Because of the CloudStrike stuff with that? Was that you? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of Two Loss, everybody already knows that you can get 3 months free music distribution using the code @odds. But also wanted to let you guys know that we're currently planning some live events on the East Coast. So be on the lookout for that. We're trying to put together the right programming. It'll be myself and Ray Daniels, and Nyla Simone just joined our team as well. So I'll give you guys more information as we pull those details together.
Yeah. So speaking of glitches, I feel like as technology glitches, humanity glitches as well. And humanity's been glitching for a while. This, I posted this. It wasn't meant to be funny. It was just a conversation that I had with somebody that didn't go well. My responses were very brief, and his were long to the point that I didn't read any of them fully. And you'll see what I mean. And I just want to show you this video. This is just someone asking to get a beat from me. It was one of the top selling beats I had. He wanted the exclusive rights for free. And then he tried to negotiate up for $30. And I just politely said no each time. And this is what happened as a result. So what I just want to emphasize here is that if it ever comes to the point where you're writing messages like that to anybody, please, please, please get therapy or find some way to let out whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through in a healthy way, because this is not a healthy way. I don't deserve to get dumped on. I don't deserve to get your trauma dumped on you. And a lot of times people in creative positions are the trash bins for your emotions. And a lot of people treat us that way. I wish I could help the person. I don't know him. I'm not in a position to help people that jump into my inbox and just take out all their aggressions and traumas and mental health crises on me. And it's not fair to either of us. So I looked up resources. The thing that I hate is that there's not really an easy solution, because I can't just say, all right, go to this place. They have free therapy. Go to here. When I schedule therapy, it's expensive. It's like $300 a session, and that's virtual. So I don't know what, Aaron, are there any? I know there are some resources online. Are there any that you know of offhand? I'm looking for my screenshot.
If they're a Black man or woman, yes, there's therapy for Black girls. If you go on their website, they can show you like subsidized therapists in your area. They also do it for men if you go on the site, but it's not as much information. And then there's another resource. I have to look it up. I follow them. I can't remember. And it's specifically for Black men. I can send it to you if you want to link it in the description. I just have to find their Instagram page. Same thing. They're not guaranteeing therapy for you, but they have resources depending on what area you live in, and whether you have insurance or you don't. They can cover, I think, like one session for you, or find you subsidized sessions. And then, yeah, I mean, I wish we still had our therapy fund. We'll probably bring it back, but that was a hard feat and a hard thing to keep up with. But yeah, I will try to send you some things, Payne, so that you can link it, because I agree, people definitely need mental health resources. The creative industry definitely attracts that. I think I've experienced a lot of bipolar people. I don't know if they're officially diagnosed as that, so I want to be careful with saying that. I'm not saying that as an insult, but I've had a handful of different people not like something that I said either during a consultation or in a DM, where they went from the sweetest person to blowing up on me with very little context, very little pushback. And so I do have a lot of friends and family that experience BPD and have, been formally diagnosed, and it follows the track. And so my hope is that everybody get help. But a lot of times, if that's your response to somebody who is escalating a situation beyond safety, in my situation, I just have to block them, because I'm a woman, and I just am not going to deal with that, especially for personal safety. I think anybody shouldn't have to deal with it, but personally, It just scares me. But a lot of times if you react with like, hey, man, I think you should go to therapy, then it could get even more violent. So I'm hoping that you could be self-aware enough to be like, hey, this isn't normal for me to switch back and forth or get so upset about these things, even if it's not BPD. So yeah, please get help.
Well, it's not normal, period. I mean, even if you know the person, if you're sending messages like that to an ex, to a family member, something's going on. Blackmenheal.org is one. There were some others. I think
That's
I
it. That's the
accidentally.
one. I forgot about it. That's the one I was thinking of. Black Man Hill.
Okay, because they provide some resources. Some of them are free too, and I think it's absolutely. I don't want to make this whole segment about therapy, but I think it's important to find people that you trust based on their experiences. And it's hard for me to like go to white female therapists all the time. No disrespect to them. It was just I needed to find someone that was a little more in tune with what I was going through. And I had a lot more, I think I made more progress with the therapist that I finally found. So it's important. Please do that. Oh, okay.
If you don't mind me asking, Payne, just really quickly, because you made that statement, do you go to a biracial therapist or a Black therapist?
But when I found him, I was like, his first name sounds Black and his last name sounds Latino, or I don't know what term we're supposed to use for ourselves. I identify as mixed white, Black, and Chicano, but whatever. That's a political term. So I was like, cool. He's ethnically ambiguous at least. So and he's a male, and he's, a little older than me, but not too much older. So I'm like, this sounds like a good fit, but I was more or less shopping around. So
the reason I asked that is because I think it's beneficial for people to hear that you went to somebody that fits what you needed. I go to a Black woman, and I think I've heard a lot of people say, well, therapy didn't work for me. And sometimes, I'm not saying that it works for everybody, but sometimes it's just the person that you're going to, you can't identify with, or you feel like you can't get to a certain point with, even if it's the first or second session. So just a little tidbit.
No, you're absolutely right. Because the reason I even knew about this is because my big brother was like, him and his wife were going specifically to a Black therapist. And I'm like, well, how did you find, because for me, I was just finding whoever was available because it was so competitive. And then he told me about these databases. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know about that. So it's helpful for everybody to talk about that stuff with each other, especially friends. Maybe I'm biased, but especially men, because we just get angry and we like to explode a lot. I'm not saying that's exclusive to my gender, but I think it's particularly problematic to our gender.
There is a lot of mental illness, but a lot of, and I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of this is just general unprofessionalism, like stemming from a lack of education. And I think I've even told the story before where I was a little on edge too early. I didn't like flash on anybody, but there was a contest early on in the Funk Volume days where I didn't feel like they were being fair on how it was being ran. And then once I started running our own contests, I realized, man, it's tough to run these contests. I probably shouldn't have been, and I wouldn't even call it aggressive. I don't even think I was aggressive, but I said some things that I probably shouldn't have said. And I reached back out to him after I went through my experience with the contest and saw how people were attacking us and accusing us of being unfair and, all this other stuff. So I reached back out to the person. It was probably like a year or two later. I was like, man, I apologize because this is wild. And now at Two Lost, being kind of front facing, people think I'm customer service. Yeah. So they'll hit me up, they'll send me all kind of DMs thinking I'm going to address their problems. And don't get me wrong, like Two Lost, I truly believe Two Lost is a great platform, but there's a lot going on the platform. Like there's a lot of tools and features. So sometimes they break, and then sometimes I just don't know how to use this because there's so much stuff going on. So that we do have customer support. I am not that. So I have to find a balance between just continue to be respectful and say, hey, continue to submit a support ticket. That is not what I get paid to do, is go back and forth with you in my DMs. I would know not to reach out to a music exec to, get the title changed on my song, on Spotify or something like that. But, a lot of young people don't know that's not appropriate. So
no, they don't. I get contacted for tech support all the time, and I don't even work for a platform. I just make beats.
Yeah. I'll say I get DMs for Two Lost as well. And I'm like, hey, like you said, hey, just I don't even know what the support ticket setup is. I'm just like, hey, you should fill out a support ticket. I can't get it. I can't help it to account for it.
Tuloss.com/support. To anybody that they respond pretty quickly, like definitely a lot quicker than other platforms that I've used. But if you're logged into your account, go to tuloss.com/support and submit an actual ticket. So that way you can kind of track the progress of that specific ticket number and see, where it's at in the queue.
Yeah. I think people just lack common sense and are odd because I'll be like, hey, I don't work for Tulos. I just say that. And then sometimes I've said, fill out a support ticket. And they're like, oh, well, I just thought you could help. Like, don't even respond because I'm not going to respond again now. Like, I don't work for Tulos and I can't help you. And if you knew anything about me, you wouldn't want me helping you with technological issues. I'm terrible at technology. So don't hit me. Also, Dave, I want to commend you for saying that you went back and apologized. Because I know it was years later, way later, that you realized and apologized. I think that needs to be a point that people live on and live out in this industry specifically. I have done the same thing. I've gone back a year or two later, apologized to people for things that I've said or misconceptions. I think once or twice. It hasn't happened a lot because I do try to watch my words, especially with artists because I feel like they fly off the handle. And yeah, so I think more people need to do that because I think that there are a lot of people who have misread a situation or made an assumption or just were ignorant. It's okay that you're ignorant. It's not okay that you respond harshly out of your ignorance. Like you said, Dane, you were like, I wasn't going crazy on him, but I realized in hindsight I could have essentially had more grace for the situation. So I think if you realize that in hindsight, I ran back into a producer who like went off on me, who I've made a ton of money for. He was going off on me because he did not understand what was going on and just assumed that I was trying to defraud him. And I kept making him money, even though I didn't want to. I didn't work directly with him, but he worked with one of my artists. And he was saying that I stole from him because he didn't get paid his royalties, yada, yada, yada. It was crazy. And I was like getting him sync placements, getting him beat opportunities. And I saw him maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And he said, this is a little awkward, right? And I couldn't even remember why I didn't like the kid. I just saw him and I was like, oh yeah, I don't really like this kid. But I just like, there's a countless number of people that I don't like in this industry. It doesn't affect me. I just don't think about you anymore, right? For a time, I kept making him money. And then I was like, I'm going to stop submitting the songs that he produced on for syncs. And that's just, it is what it is. So he was like, this is awkward, right? And I was like, no, why is this awkward? Because he was the only seat in the room. I went to a friend's birthday party, sat down, and he was like, because like the last time we talked was like over a year ago. And then I was like, yeah, I forgot about that. Because when he said it, I started being like, oh yeah, this man went out of his way to send me the most heinous emails. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I don't hold on to stuff. There's too much for me to be doing in life to be holding on to other people's issues. And he was like, okay, well, I just gave it to God. And then I got mad. I didn't care before that moment. But you're sitting to me face to face, worried about it being awkward. When I say we're good, you don't apologize? I didn't even remember what you did until you brought it up. Like, clearly it's on your conscience if you remember when you see me. Do you know what I'm saying? So... yeah, I'm just saying, especially if you have the opportunity to see the person face to face, just be like, yo, my bad. You don't even have to be like, and this and this and this, and I was going through this. Just be like, yo, I was tripping. Or, yo, I've learned since then. Or, yo, I still agree with my stance, but I shouldn't have come at you that way. There's something so redeeming about things like that. Now this kid who I forgot about is definitively on my X out list. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
and I bet he's not getting him,
but he had
those
opportunities
now.
He didn't go for it.
Yeah.
It should feel good to apologize and get stuff off your chest. Like, some stuff bothers me and I can't move forward, with a clean conscience unless, you have that conversation. So Yeah, I mean, it's typically just kind of your ego that prevents you from doing so, especially in the moment, right? Like if you're wrong, sometimes your immediate reaction is to find a way to be right about something else immediately. Well, this happened and I did this, and but yeah,
Accountability. I think that's the average, but not the average. I think that's the most common problem people have, is just not being able to take accountability. Like if you're not going to therapy for anything other than that, because maybe you don't think you have anything to go to therapy for, at least go for that. Because that's, man, it's terrifying. It terrifies the rest of the planet when they know they're dealing with someone who's not accountable, because you just go into fight or flight when you're dealing with them. And speaking of non-accountability and speaking of unprofessionalism, I think a lot of this goes back to ego, like the two of you said. And I feel like that is maybe at the core of this Key tweet. You tell me that.
Real quick though, just update on that story. Even though I did apologize, a couple of years after that, he was posting a bunch of Trump shit, and then I didn't talk to him after that anyway. He was just like, yeah, but so.
But you apologized though. Still,
for what I did. Now I think he needs to apologize for all the shit he was posting. But anyway, carry on. Keys tweet.
Now all these folks gonna be in our comments, and now they're gonna be like, y'all made the show political. Y'all are haters, hating on progress in America.
Well, maybe the tweets or the posts that offended Dame were anti-Trump. He just said he posted about Trump. Maybe he called him fat, and Dame thinks that Trump has the body of a Greek god, just like Elon's fanboys think he's somehow Tyrese and Ryan Gosling put together. But anyway, Keys.
It's unfortunately not just fanboys. I met a black fangirl of Elon the other day and was so blown away. I found out it was his birthday because she took a personal holiday, and I was like, say what?
That's weird. Yeah. The way people get worship these days is wild. Aaron, you want to cue this up? Tee this up?
Yes. So shout out to Key. Key opens doors. My fellow ATLian. I think she's originally from Columbus, but has made her career in Atlanta for sure, and is now global. But Key said something that I wholeheartedly agree with. Everybody want to be their own boss. That's what's keeping us from more generational wealth. I think everybody wanting to be their own boss, especially, well, I won't say especially because Dame says I shouldn't single out the music industry. I just think people wanting to be their own boss is halting a lot of progress, because most people shouldn't be their own boss. And because they think with that framework or that mindset, because they shouldn't and can't be their own boss, go into working environments unwilling to be a great team player, because they have in the back of their mind that they could do it better or it should be done differently. And instead of learning and evolving in the moment, they just weigh down the team. And, they say the speed of the leader is the speed of the team, which I agree with in the proper context. But I live more by you're only as strong as your weakest link. That's why I'm intentional about building a diverse community. That's why I'm intentional about being accountable for my actions and listening to people who I disagree with, and being in environments with people who are Elon stans, because sometimes that friction helps you think pragmatically about the way that you live life. And so I think in the music industry, this thought process halts progress in a lot of ways with young professionals, not even just young. I would just say with the executive side and with the artist side. I think it halts progress with the artist side because there's a lot less collaboration, there's a lot less generosity, and there's a lot less willingness and openness and diligence in learning the process, learning what needs to happen, because they will cite one or two outliers that they don't have full context for, assume that they will also be that outlier, and then now make that justifiable cause for them to not be great as a team player, but also for not calling in the reinforcements or paying people properly, or again, joining a team. You don't want to be a part of a collective because nobody's doing it like you. You don't want to work with these people because nobody's working as hard as you. You're hating on this person and not paying attention to the formula that they're using because you're so different. And then I think with young executives, and I have succumbed to this a couple times in my career, and it wasn't even because I didn't want to be a team player. It was just ignorance. I assumed that joining a team in certain situations wouldn't be beneficial for me because it was going to slow me down. Or when I was on a team, I had one foot in the door, one foot out the door. And I'm saying even recently, I realized this about like even this podcast. I had to have a conversation with Dame in New York. I was like, I realized that I was not fully focused on this because I got bored a little bit, but two, I was more like, well, I'm showing up because I like this, but I don't love it. And I told him, I was like, I realized I could love it if I put my energy into it. But I was thinking like an artist, which is what I told him. Not that all artists think this way. I just think they do. But I was thinking for myself, I was like, well, I'll show up because I'm rocking with it. But why not put in more of my energy and say, hey, this is how I would like to do this, and this would make this more interesting, and contributing in a way that I feel empowered to be here and a part of a team. And so I think that, I think what she's saying is very interesting. I think the thought process is geared specifically towards Black people. Just when she said the phrase generational wealth, not that other people don't have it, but it's an issue within our community where we're lacking it, a lot of it. And clearly it's because of what's happened to us in this country and things like that. But then another part of it, a bigger part of the ramifications of slavery and racism in America is the lack of the access to education and more forward-thinking opportunities. It's not just what happened to us in action. It's the mindsets that were derived from that time and from the lack of generational wisdom being able to be passed down. And so I have other thoughts, but I really do want to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you see it playing out in the real world?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I personally don't even like the term boss and would never even call myself a boss, even if I ran everything that was part of the organization. Like and maybe that's a fault of mine, like, cause I'm even uncomfortable with the word. Like when somebody used to call me the boss of Funk Volume, like I would actually correct them. I just don't like that word and kind of everything, kind of the connotation of that word. So I prefer partner. I know I'm a leader. I know I'm an executive. I know I have my lane, but I don't know everything. And I know that a lot of artists want to be the boss because it sounds cool and it sounds like you should be in control of everything. But we've talked about this before. If you're going to be in control of everything, you're going to have to know about everything. And there's not an artist that I know that knows everything. So, you just have one conversation with an established executive, have one conversation with Ray Daniels, and you'll realize how much you don't know about this industry and how many people you don't know. Like, because there's so many ways to maneuver in this industry. There's a lot of different moving parts. And to me, like, just being a boss is off-putting. I don't want to work for a boss either, because it just entails that this person tells you what to do all the time. There's no teamwork. There's no collective thought. Like, it's just one person kind of giving marching orders. And that's kind of what I see what I see in my mind when I hear the word boss. So I don't even like that word used, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I feel like, and a boss has workers. That's really kind of the requisite. And I see it from the opposite side too, where rather than being a lone wolf to be a boss, a lot of people start scraping up folks that they kind of see as maybe even subconsciously weaker than them. And then they become the boss of those people. And ultimately the result is the same, zero progress. Because again, if you're going to be a boss, my thing is, if you're going to be a music business boss, you have to prove yourself first. And the thing is, once you prove yourself, and you actually build something for yourself in the music business that is working for you and is creating opportunities, creating wealth, creating great ideas that are actually implemented, then at that point, you shouldn't even be thinking in those terms. You should just be focused on the success. And that's, I think, what normally happens. But usually those people don't have those aspirations. You know, if you go into the music business thinking, I just want to be a boss, that's an ego thing. It doesn't mean anything. If you go into the music business saying to yourself, I have this very specific goal. I want to create this management company. I want to manage 3 artists who are generating $100,000 and higher off of their music within 4 years. That's a specific goal. You're not saying, I don't want to be a boss. You're actually talking about tangible goals. And I've seen it a million times where someone gets the tiniest opportunity and next thing you know, they're starting a record label or they're starting a collective or they're starting whatever it is. And in those instances, I think a lot of weak-minded people are attracted to them as both bosses and as members, because the bosses are weak because they just want people around them so they feel stronger. And the people that are propping these so-called bosses up are weak because they're afraid to take leadership positions because they are basing their music business trajectory on this desire for codependence. So there's a lot going on. And I fell into the latter category. I was always on teams because I felt like I couldn't go solo. Again, therapy. And when all the teams just burned me out one after another, I had no choice. It was either give up or go solo. And the second I started going solo, it was like, damn, I'm making all this progress because I'm not watering down. You know, when you're trying to convince other people to do stuff, it's the music business. We're not working at a fast food chain where you're the manager and you tell people, hey, clean that shit up, and they do it. You're in the music business. You're not signing any checks. You're not giving out shifts. You know what I mean? Like if you're the boss of a group of recording artists or producers or whatever, and you say, all right, we need this album done, these social media benchmarks hit by Friday, they have no incentive to do that because you're not writing them a check for that. You're trying to build something out of thin air. So it's just not the same. Just build things that are tangible. That's all. Have real goals. It's hard to go into a business that's so competitive and so full of existing established connections and networks and all that without anything concrete. And a lot of people just have this goal to be a boss, which means nothing but getting your ego stroked.
I think people think that a boss means that you're at the top and then everybody's doing the work for you and then you get to relax. And I think that that's like such an odd misnomer. Like you hear it time and time again. I don't currently. I would say I still work more than if I had a 40-hour-a-week job. Do you know what I'm saying? Like definitely, my work looks different than what a 40-hour-a-week job would look like requirement-wise if I had one role. But you're gonna work if you're truly in charge. And I'm with Dame. I used to hate that term, even when the people who worked for me would be like, oh, I have the best boss ever. So I'm like seeing this little bug that I really want to kill on the wall. It's grossing me out. But they're like, oh, you're the best boss. Or like, oh, I work for such a cool boss. And I'm like, please don't call me that. Because it has this weird hierarchical, and I get there's connotation versus denotation. But I just never liked the word either. Because truthfully, with me, it's like, I think the best bosses put somebody else in charge. You know, like I know my strengths. We had an operations manager. My hope is that as we go back to growing our company and building things, that we'll have a chief of staff who's in charge. And I'm with Dame. I love leadership. I love starting things, building things, but I know my weaknesses, and me being in charge all the time is not a strength for the company, much less the team. It's like I can only lead to a certain extent, which is why I'm always trying to grow my leadership skills. So if you are not always trying to grow your skills, and if you're not willing to outwork everybody who's on your team, like, and not just to be like, I'm outworking everybody. It requires that, because the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. So that means have to work, and you have to work in a way that it shows people what they should be doing in the work field and around your business. It can't just be like, cool, now I'm going to be like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and throw my feet up, which is what everybody thinks is happening. And some of those companies it is, but you're going to work. If you want to be successful, you got to work regardless. It's just the type of work that you do. And some people are like, well, if I was doing what I wanted to do, I'd be working harder. That's not true. That's something that's in you. Every time I worked for other people, coffee shops, nannying, whatever, same feedback. You're such a hard worker. You're diligent at this. You show up in a way that we know you want to be here. When I worked at the coffee shop, I didn't love it, but I felt like I was honing skills. I was learning how to pull incredible shots on the espresso machine. I was learning how to interface with people that I had never talked to in my life before. I was learning how to build relationships with people in 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying? All translatable skills, but I also like people. So it's like, I think how you work now is how you always work. When people are like, man, one day when I start my own company, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, you would be doing it now. And I'm not saying you can't change. Please change. Change today. While you're working for your boss, show up in a way that acts like you want to be there. You need to be there because you got to make a check. If you act like you want to be there and you start applying the principles of what you want in your own company, in your own business, then you'd probably be a successful business owner. But if you're just complaining and think that being a boss is your way out of the working world, it's not true. You have to work harder to be the boss.
I think like in the Funk Volume situation, I think people starting to call me boss, or, that was actually one of the reasons that started friction to build, because that messed with Hop's ego, because in his mind it's like, oh, Funk Volume was my idea. Now this guy's being considered the boss by people. They're calling him the boss. But ultimately at the end of the day on a team, like you need to lean on people for their expertise. Like there are certain things that I'm just better than you at. Obviously you guys are creative. You guys are better than me at rapping and producing, and we all just have to fill our lanes and stop getting, in our feelings about what people's titles are. It's just triggering your ego, because now I'm seen as the CEO of this company that essentially was your idea, but a CEO's role is what I have the capabilities for. Like most artists, like we talk, don't have the expertise or the knowledge to be a true CEO or a boss. You just want to be that because that's what Rick Ross said you should be. So yeah, it's tough, but I don't even use that word here for the people that I manage, because at the end of the day, at 2 Laws, I have a boss. Like, but so I think we just play different roles in different environments. And I like that. I like that I get to do that.
We could call you Boss Man D Row.
What?
People just got to get in with you, man.